Tonight's topic is kind of a combination of the internal challenge of the week and the question of the week. And it's a really weird question of the week. It took me a while to get something that I felt like made sense for it. The question is, how can context help us be mindful or stay mindful? And it's a very open-ended question that you could take in a lot of different directions. And you'll see how I do this masterfully. The internal challenge of the week is to learn to make something new and make it. And I know Christine made an awesome Christmas tree ornament, and I'm sure other people are cooking stuff. Louise said that she made muffins earlier. Sounds great. It can be anything that you're learning and doing for the first time, but the idea is you're kind of like making something. There's something tangible. And I thought it would be fun to combine these because when you're learning something new, you're meant to, or you're kind of propelled into this beginner's mind, this state of mind or this mindset where you're really paying attention to things that you're not necessarily normally paying attention to. And a big part of our martial arts practice is to try to hold on to this or keep going back to beginner's mind. And this is something that even as a black sash or a black belt, I want to keep going back and reminding myself, I don't know all the details for this. And there could be a way to still improve technique. And definitely there's always a way to improve the way that I'm teaching or the way that class is going on. So I want to talk about the context of beginner's mind. And the idea of just context in general, I think is super powerful. It's kind of an easy shortcut or a shorthand to kind of automatically thinking about things and doing things in a different way. So different context can be like you're in the dojo versus you're out there in the rest of the world. You're in the dojo, there's a certain context to this, right? You hear somebody yelling in the dojo, it's like, I expect this. I hear somebody yelling outside. I mean, if you live in LA, you kind of expect that, but it's a different thing that you're, different kind of emotional state that you're brought into when somebody's yelling in here versus yelling out there, right? For me, I have a super powerful context that I keep returning to, or I'd really try to stay in when I'm in the dojo. That's the context of me being a Sifu. And me being a Sifu is very different from me just being regular old like Ryan. I'll tell you, I mean, I try to do this as much as I can outside the dojo, but I get home, I'm not Sifu at home. Ask Grace, she will tell you. There's very little, listening to what I say and doing exactly what I say. So I have to learn how to actually communicate like a normal human being. That's a different context, being at home versus being Sifu. Most of you guys have heard this, but I'm going to be a father soon. That's a whole, I can't even tell you about the context yet, but I know it's going to be different. And that is, at least slightly different from, I was joking with Frida earlier tonight. It's like I already have 200 kids, but it's very different when I have this one. Like I really have to get her to do the right stuff. You guys, I care a lot, but I don't have control over you all the time. I assume I will learn that being a father also means I do not have control all the time. Being a partner versus being an opponent. This is a big kind of contextual shift that we talk about all the time in class, right? If I think of somebody as my partner, this leads me to different kind of actions and different kinds of emotional states than being somebody's opponent. Right? In class, I'm sparring with somebody, I'm thinking of them as a partner, they punch me, I might go, wow, that was awesome. Versus I'm thinking of somebody as an opponent in the dojo or outside the dojo, they punch me, I don't go, wow, that was awesome. I think, oh, I gotta kill this person now. Or wherever you go, some people go like, oh, they're gonna kill me now. So these different contexts give us different kind of easy states of being or easy paths to doing things in different ways. And we should never be stuck in any one context. So different places, different relationships, different situations lead to different contexts. And it's a very powerful thing to be able to choose what the context is. So learning something new, the beginner's mind. This does a couple of things, but one of the most important things, apparently learning how to stick a sticky note on a tripod is a thing that I'm a beginner at. learning something new, it automatically makes it okay for us to make mistakes. And that means that you can just have fun with it, right? Making mistakes is a very important and natural part of learning. And if you refuse to make mistakes, as a lot of people do, I was just talking with somebody about a new Tai Chi student, and we have people all the time who feel this way. It's like, I got to get it perfect from the beginning. And this makes it feel very heavy. This makes practice and life feel like, a drag. It makes it feel like it's very hard. Versus I'm a beginner and I know I'm supposed to be bad, thus I can make all the mistakes that I want and learn from them. It actually makes the experience light, and it makes us able to learn from mistakes in a way that we don't normally do if we expect ourselves to have it. You expect to be good at it. You make a mistake, your immediate response is, bah, I suck. I need to be better. It's not, how can I learn from this? So as a beginner, everything is possible. And a mistake is just another way of learning. Versus I'm an expert already, very few things are possible. And a mistake is just a bad thing. So that context, super helpful in martial arts and in life. There's a great Einstein quote. He said, anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. Absolutely. And I'm sure Einstein made lots of mistakes. It's the only way that we learn. It's the only way that science advances, and we just hope that the mistakes are not massive. We're not blowing ourselves up. In class, when we make mistakes, we can usually control the amount of safety while we're making mistakes in a safe drill, in a safe environment. Then it's going to work out really well. So when we apply this kind of mindset to things that we already know, it gives us a whole different kind of experience. You've heard me tell this story called Emptying Your Cup, and I'll tell that first, but there's a quote. This is a kind of a well-known Zen saying, is knowledge is learning something new every day. Wisdom is letting go of something every day. And we're talking about learning something new and getting that beginner's mindset. But what if you're doing something that you are already supposed to know? And like, what if you're a green sash and you show up to class and it's like, I'm supposed to be the expert at all this stuff, and then you make one mistake? Let's be honest, you're making hundreds of mistakes in every class. That's what's happening. Whether you recognize them or not, they're always happening. And so when you have this beginner's mindset, this is a big part of it, is letting go of what you think you already know. Letting go of the need to be right, but letting go of, when I say front punch, you think, I know how to do the front punch already. I say commencement, you think, I already know how to do commencement. You want to let go of that. Be totally fresh in the moment and ready to learn whatever there is to learn. So the story is, there's a professor who comes to a Zen teacher and asks him to teach him about Zen. And then he proceeds to tell him all the things that he thinks he already knows about Zen. And he's sitting there and he's talking. He's like, this is the history of this teacher and this kind of sect of Zen, and this is what happened. Da, da, da. And the Zen teacher is like, and he's starting to pour tea into a teacup, and the tea just keeps filling up as the professor continues to talk, and eventually it starts to overflow and spill onto the ground. And the professor's like, stop, it can't take any more, it's overfull. And the Zen teacher says, yes, and this is like you. You are like this teacup. You're so full that you cannot take any more knowledge. And so the lesson there is to empty your cup. And this is part of what we're trying to do when we bow. You bow onto the mats, and you want to, this is being humble to the mats, to the space that you're about to practice. This is showing that you're willing to, just kind of humble yourself before the practice. And that kind of motion, I think of it like a physical motion that is like, I'm letting it spill out. All the stuff that I think I know just goes, and it's on the ground, and then I can enter class with my empty cup, just ready to take whatever there is to learn. And it really is an act of being humble. And sometimes you will forcibly be humbled in class or in life, and sometimes you'll get to choose that. I'll say, from my experience, it's a much nicer time, it feels a lot better if you're choosing to be humble versus being humbled by force. Of course, in class, the analogy is kind of obvious, right? You think you're really good, somebody destroys you in sparring or grappling, and you realize, I'm not good. It's forced humble. But if you can, imagine situations in life, you think you know something and you're very clearly proven to be wrong. That's one kind of it's one kind of experience, and it's a necessary experience. And when we have that, again, we're invited either to kind of fight against that. And this is what most of us do because we don't like being proven wrong. It feels like life-threatening to human beings to be wrong, especially in public. And what we really want to be able to do is just set that aside and be happy to be wrong. So we kind of practice that in class. We practice beginner's mind. We practice bowing. And it's not like every building you go into you need to bow, but this is something that I do a lot by accident. Sometimes I walk in a door and I'm like, huh, and I realize this is not the dojo. This is not the kind of place that I bow, but it's kind of fun to do that. I go to check out at the grocery store. I'll tell you, I don't do this very often anymore because now I order my groceries ahead of time. This is one of the few like really great things that came from COVID. Now I just pull up and they just bring the groceries out to me. But I used to do this all the time. I'm checking out at the grocery store and I'm talking to the person who's checking me out, the cashier, and I always refer to them, yeah, like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And they kind of like that, or they feel like it's weird. I don't know. But for me, it kind of brings me into this state of being very respectful to this person. And that's something that I think is missing in general from our lives and from the world is, being humble, being in this beginner's mindset or beginner state, knowing that you don't know, and being ready to learn whatever. I'm in that cashier's world. I know very little about this. As Mike knows, I can't do the math. I don't know how much the change is supposed to be. I don't know what the discount is, all that stuff. They know how to find how much this thing costs, even though it doesn't have a label on it. They run over to the section in the store and come back, and it's all great. I'm in their world, absolutely. They're the Sifu of that little area. And there is something so nice about that. As a newer jiu-jitsu student, I went from being a black sash and I was like, I'm supposed to know everything, to then I show up at Roger Machado's school and I was already a blue belt at that point, but I was bad. I was a bad blue belt, and compared to everyone else there, I was pretty bad. And it was so nice to be back in that space where I realized I'm not supposed to be the person who knows everything right now. Even now as a black belt at Hodger's school, Master Machado knows everything, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he usually says it this way, but we can ask him later on. And this is what you guys should do as green sashes, as advanced students in Tai Chi and in Kung Fu. It's like, you can just say, this is what I remember. I'm pretty sure it's this way. And then as soon as they find something that you're not really sure about, say, that's a great question for Sifu. I heard Doug saying that the other night in class. Doug's been practicing for 18 years. He knows a lot. He's very good. And usually he'll just tell you exactly what to do. And he just said, that's a great question for Sifu. Let's check with him after class. And, part of that is being humble. Part of that is knowing what you don't really know. And it's a really nice, easy way out of a sticky situation. If you don't know, just say, somebody else knows more than me. I use that sometimes. You guys ask me questions and I'm like, I'm going to ask my Sifu and he'll tell me, or I'm going to ask Master Machado, he'll tell me. And then if they don't know, they'll ask somebody else. And if they can't find somebody who knows, then nobody knows, and I'll just make something up. And that has to happen sometimes. But we were having fun with this idea in class this week by making combinations. I even said in Tai Chi, this is a thing that you can try to do. You're not generally supposed to be making up your own forms and stuff, but you can try putting different things together and seeing what flows well. We get stuck doing the same kinds of techniques and the same kinds of combinations, and that really gets us into this, this rut. This mental and physical rut of doing the same things. And Of course, there's something very good and beneficial about doing the same thing over and over again until you get really good at it, and then it has its limitations, right? If literally all you ever did is a front punch, there are serious limitations to that. You'll have a great front punch, but then you can't do anything else well. And this is the flip side to Bruce Lee's famous quote, "I'd rather fight somebody who knows 1,000 kicks and has done them all once than somebody who knows one kick and has done it 1,000 times," because they're going to get you with that one kick if they've done it 1,000 times. If they've done 1,000 kicks once, they're not going to be good at any of those things. But trying different things allows us to see the overarching principles, and this is something that we really want to focus on. You've heard, the 8 principles in Tai Chi and the things that I keep yelling at you to do in Kung Fu, like keeping your hands up. These are things that you should always do, but the way that they show up in different postures and different combinations, there are infinite ways of doing these things. Even if you just, take the 8 principles of Tai Chi, there are so many different ways that these things can show up. And if you take the same principles in Kung Fu, right, 98% extension is the furthest you should go. Well, that doesn't mean the punch always looks like that, right? There are lots of techniques where you can be getting 98% extension, and that frees you up to trying different things. And when you're trying something new and you kind of really stray too far in one direction and then you're going against the principle, and it's like, well, this doesn't make sense because in order to do it, I have to lock out my elbow. You know that it's not going to work. So then go back to the principles and play with it in a different way. So this is a really important part, I think, of our practice, is teaching us the basic things, the building blocks to work with, and to just have fun and be creative with it. And if we think we know the technique or we know the combination, we're stuck. We're stuck doing it the same way. So play around with different ways that it could look. And when you're learning something new this week, you're learning how to make something new and making it for the first time, you're kind of forced into that. Remember what that feels like. Remember what it's like to just not know and to really enjoy the process of learning and to feel really comfortable. Remember what it feels like to be comfortable in that not knowing. You're learning to make something for the first time. It's like, what I did, I made these chickpea croutons the other day because I try to eat vegan or vegetarian during the week, and I'm making these croutons, and I'm like, I read the instructions, but I've already made these things before, like 20 times, so I'm an absolute pro. And I pop them in the oven, set the timer for 40 minutes, come back. They are black. They are burnt to the point where they are almost inedible. I tell you, I ate them and they still kind of tasted good, but they did not look appetizing. And I must have missed something in the directions that I told myself that I've read so many times. I probably put them on the wrong rack in the oven or whatever. You're supposed to like stir them more often. I don't know. And this was like a fun experience. I made this, I made this noodle salad for the first time, and getting the texture of the noodles just right and all of this. It's like there's a fun little way to dive into each moment of whatever it is that we're doing. And so try to remember that feeling of beginner's mind. Try to remember that feeling of this is new, it's exciting that it's new, it's nice that it's new, it's relaxing that I don't have to know what I'm doing. And take that context into something else that you already know, right? The dojo is a great opportunity to practice this because nobody's going to be a jerk if you have this mindset of, I don't really know everything perfectly yet. There are situations where it might not fly so well. You can't go to your job and be like, I don't know how to do anything. I mean, they're going to fire you. But of course, if there's something that you know that you don't know, that's something that people really respect. And that's going to be the same thing in the dojo, of course. There's something that you know that you don't know, admit to it, don't just make something up. It's at work, it's your relationships, life, whatever. There's something you don't know. There's something so freeing and so nice about just admitting that to yourself and admitting that to the other person. It takes all the pressure off and it puts you in a state of discovery and excitement and just being engaged. So when you meditate, some of us have been meditating for a very long time. Some of us have been meditating for this long. Whatever you're doing, quit thinking that you know everything, right? Meditation it's not what you think. That's a funny pun. It's a punny joke. So when you think you know, and it's so common that people run into this problem with meditation where it's like, oh, this technique that I'm doing right now isn't working. I'm going to use this other technique, and I know all these different techniques. I collect all these different things that I can do, and then you're sitting there and you're just like thinking about different strategies during meditation. That's not really what we're going for. We're going for the opposite. We're going for letting go of all of that stuff. And this is something that most meditation techniques should have in common, is they are designed to help us let go. So when we're just focusing on the breath, this is helping us let go of everything else. Maybe you're focusing on a mantra or a visualization or whatever it is that's designed to help you let go of everything else. So when your mind wanders, you have a thought, you get stuck on it, you're attached, then go back to whatever that anchor is, in our case, the breathing, that allows you to let go. Just like that quote said, that is wisdom. So if you're meditating every day, you're for sure letting go of something every day, and you are by definition very wise. So sit comfortably. Cold. Close eyes. Spine straight. Eyes upturned. Relax. Watch the breath. Let go of all thoughts, worries, and cares. Be here now.